Money, money, give me money.
Players.
I want money, money now, please, thank you.
Players.
Money, give me money.
In the world of competitive mobile shooters, pay to win is usually a blunt instrument. It's a bigger health pool, a faster fire rate, or a weapon locked behind a literal paywall. For the first year of his life, Call of Duty Mobile played by those exact rules. But over the last 5 years, Teamy Studio Group has performed a masterclass in psychological and technical engineering. They didn't just remove pay to win, they evolved it. They transitioned from explicit statistical superiority to a more nuanced, sophisticated, and arguably more insidious model, soft pay to win. Today the advantage isn't found in damage numbers, it's found in visual elitism, the mathematics of the attachment economy, the mitigation of visual noise, and the optimization of screen real estate. This is a technical documentary on the evolution of advantage. We are answering the fundamental question: has CODM truly eradicated pay to win, or has it simply engineered a version that is harder to quantify but equally potent?
Don't know much about history.
To understand the soft pay to win of today, we have to look at the pre-Gunsmith era. This was a period of monetization that was blunt, transparent, and statistically unequal. Back then, weapon blueprints weren't just skins, they were performance upgrades. In 2019, weapons were simple. You had 3 attachment slots aside from the optic, but if you owned an epic or legendary skin, you had access to the perk system, the 2 most contentious, range boost and speed boost. Let's look at the math. In a high-level engagement, effectiveness is dictated by shots to kill, STK, at specific ranges. If a base assault rifle had a 4-shot kill range up to 10 meters, the range boost perk on an epic skin pushed that up to 11 meters. At the 11-meter mark, a paid player needed 4 bullets, a free player needed 5. In a game where time to kill is measured in milliseconds, that isn't a skin, it's a mathematical victory. You were essentially bringing a butter knife to a railgun fight. Before the HBR, the Pharaoh Dream Crystal was the original delete button. Released in December 2019, its one-burst lethality made every other SMG look like a toy. But unlike the HBR, it was trapped in a crate. At that time, crates had zero pity, and candidly, they still don't have a proper system for that. Even today, the guarantee system is a psychological trap designed to cough up pillar garbage and spray cans before you ever even sniff the main prize. In 2019, you could drop $500 and walk away with nothing but credits. F2P players were locked out for 5 months. Yep, 5 months. Marking the birth of the paywall platform, it was the first time Timmy proved that the meta wasn't earned, it was gambled for. The apex of this era occurred in January 2020 with the HBRA3 Dragon Dance. This wasn't just a skin for an existing gun, it was a completely new weapon platform locked exclusively behind a $150 lucky draw. The HBRA3 arrived with a top-tier time to kill, elite handling, and arguably the most forgiving recoil pattern in the game's history, but the base version was nowhere to be found. For months, the meta was bifurcated. You either paid for the platform or you lost to it. This was hard pay to win in its purest form, and the community backlash was so toxic, it forced a fundamental shift in Teamy's philosophy. They realized that selling a gun was dangerous, selling the experience of the gun, that was the future. The real sting wasn't just the months behind the paywall, it was the bait and switch that occurred the second the gates opened. The Pharaoh finally went free in Season 6, the HBR followed in Season 7, but the god tier versions paid players enjoyed were gone. Both were balanced into mediocrity. Around the same time, they became accessible to the masses. Teamy sells the power while it's broken, then hands the F2P base a nerfed, battered relic. Once the meta moves on, by the time the party is free, the developers have already moved the furniture and locked the doors.
What are your superpowers again? I'm rich.
August 2020, Season 9, The Gunsmith Revolution. This was marketed as the Great Equalizer. Teamy stripped the range and speed perks from blueprints. On paper, a base M4 and a legendary M4 were now identical, as long as you used the same 5 attachments. But Gunsmith introduced a new constraint, the 5-slot limit. In any optimization problem, constraints create value. By limiting every player to 5 slots, the developers inadvertently created a vacuum. If a player could find a way to get the benefits of a 6th attachment without ever using a slot, they would possess a quantifiable statistical edge. This realization led directly to the introduction of the Mythic tier in November 2020. This is where soft pay to win begins, because if you look at it, before Gunsmith, before Mythics were ever a thing, a legendary blueprint didn't really have a better iron sight. Now let's look at the Krig 6 Ice Drake. The base Krig features a restrictive, ring-style iron sight. It's bulky, it obscures the target. In a competitive match, high-level players are essentially forced to use a red dot sight to maintain clarity. That is slot number 1. Now look at the Mythic Ice Drake. It features a built-in, holographic, floating dot with 0 housing. It is a red dot sight. This is the 6th attachment theory, whether it's the Krig 6, the Kiel 141, or the Grau. The pattern is intentional. Make the base sights obstructive, and then sell the solution. They call them lucky draws, but the only thing lucky about them is the one guy in 2021 who actually pulled the weapon on the first 10-cent spin. For the rest of us, it's just a very expensive tax on our vision.
This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
The advantage goes deeper than just slots. We need to talk about the physics of perception. Visual recoil versus actual recoil. Actual recoil, or gun kick, is the mathematical vector of where your bullets land. But visual recoil, the camera shake and the vibration of the weapon model, is an animation variable. Look at the Mythic MG42. On the base model, the iron sights vibrate violently. This aim shake creates a massive cognitive load. You aren't just fighting the recoil, you are fighting the visual noise. On the Mythic version, the reticle is often decoupled from the vibration. The glowing dot stays snapped to the center of the screen, while the gun model vibrates beneath it like it's having a caffeinated seizure. It's your Neo moment. You stop seeing the weapon shake, you just see the code. The bullets go where you look, regardless of what the gun model is doing. This creates the laser effect. Even if the bullet spread is the same, the Mythic user can track a straight target with significantly less effort. In a game of pixels and milliseconds, clarity is a competitive statistic. This is what iSleep refers to as a safety net. If you are a pro, you've mastered manual recoil compensation, but when a Mythic offers a snapping dot, it closes the skill gap. It ensures that a player who cannot control recoil can at least see what they're exactly missing. And if you're a free-to-play player that is actually good at the game, and you're up against someone who just paid for a Mythic, it also further closes that gap. The advantage even extends into how you navigate the map. Mythic weapons utilize the tactical sprint animation, holding the weapon upright across the chest. While Teamy claims this is purely cosmetic, the geometric reality is clear. It clears the lower right quadrant of your screen. In a standard low-ready carry, a bulky base gun blocks your view of enemies crouching in corners or trip mines on the floor. With the Mythic, you can simply start sprinting to clear that visual space and reveal what was hidden. If you need your right side peripheral vision back, you just stop sprinting. A base weapon user has no such toggle. They are permanently handicapped by their own gun model, with no means to clear the frame. It's another layer of visual elitism, one where the Mythic user chooses what they see, while the F2P player just sees what they're allowed to. We even see this in frame padding for reload animations. Even if the reload cancel window is technically the same, the visual cues on a Mythic are often sharper, telling your brain exactly when that mag is seated. It's a millisecond level psychological edge that makes the gun feel responsive, while the base version feels mushy. Teamy has perfected the pre-launch shadow buff. Look at the XM4 and the SO14. During early testing, the community consensus was that they were just okay. Then right before the Mythic drop, the shadow buffs hit. Suddenly, the XM4 is a Type 19 on steroids. Better range, better handling, better consistency, with only a marginal recoil increase to hide the blatant power creep. The SO14 is even more egregious. It is strictly a better Odin in every measurable stat. It just happens to be semi-auto. But there's a catch. This is planned obsolescence. You aren't buying a weapon. You are buying a 2-year subscription to the meta. When the subscription ends, your $300 gun becomes a trophy in a glass case. Once the next big Mythic arrives, your old one is hit with consistency nerfs. The recoil is widened, the sprint speed is throttled. Look at the Type 19. After EXM4 dropped, there were endless debates. Which one is actually better? Timmy ended that debate quickly. A few seasons later, they nerfed the Type 19 so heavily it started sprinting like an LMG. They make the new weapons increasingly broken to force you off the $300 gun you already paid for. It's not a shop, it's a treadmill. They weaponize your fear of missing out, leaving you wondering, what if my favorite current weapon gets nerfed next? What if they buff the new gun again? You aren't playing a shooter anymore, you're managing a portfolio of depreciating assets. Timmy doesn't nerf guns to balance the game, they nerf them to balance their checkbook.
Thanks a lot, but I'll take it from here.
Do I know you?
Money, 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 money.
Everybody, pardon my sudden intrusion, but as I was editing this video, because it definitely didn't take me over a month, I realized that there was another point worth mentioning, that being the total lack of QC when it comes to non-mythic weapons. This should be pretty obvious, but the devs do have a tendency to put in extra care when it comes to their weapons with mythic blueprints. Other than, of course, buffing the living shit out of them if it's deemed not good enough, they will also ensure that they're released with minimal bugs, and the ones that do slip through are either so minor that they don't affect the weapon's viability, or are immediately patched out in a hotfix a couple days later. Non-mythics on the other hand get no such treatment, with most of the newer weapons ranging from being just decent, or being so bad that you start to question if they had their unpaid interns to balance them. There are a few exceptions, such as the Type 63, 3-line rifle, and RAL MG, but those are far and few between. In some cases, these weapons aren't even implemented properly, as they have some pretty serious bugs. Let's take a look at a few examples. The RAL MG on release had way slower bullet speed than what was stated in-game. It wasn't the 950 meters per second as displayed in the comparison chart, it was more like 350 meters per second. This alone made the gun unusable. And the bullet speed improving barrels didn't help either, as both of them only gave a negligible 50 meters per second, much lower than what is stated in-game. Eventually they did fix the base bullet speed, but the barrels are still bugged to this day. Next, we have the Iron Horn Revolving. This is already a bottom 3 weapon in the game, so you think they'd buff it, right? Well, surprisingly enough, they did. And they somehow made it worse. In the patch notes, it states that they optimized the reload time. I mean, fair enough, it was one of the 20 problems it had. But what they really did here was take the fast mag, the mandatory attachment to make this gun usable, mind you, and straight up remove the reload speed buff.
Oh, where did he go?
Timmy, what the actual fuck? You mean to tell me that you took one of the worst guns in the game and effectively nerfed it? Oh, and the best part is that they never actually fixed it. Okay, last example. This is the most recent one and is actually the one that made me want to add this section to the video. The LC10. Now, on paper, this gun is actually pretty decent, and I legitimately considered making a video covering it on my channel. But then, we found out that this gun had more bugs than Australia. They flipped the hipfire buffs from both lasers, the 42 round fast mag hurts your reload time instead of helping it, a lot of the attachments just had nonsensical stats, and worst of all, the Task Force barrel, the attachment that supposedly makes this gun decent, doesn't work. It doesn't give you 75% bullet speed, it gives 75 meters per second. First off, how do you manage to make the same mistake twice? And second, coming from a software engineer myself, how do you fuck up keying in numbers and not fix it? This bug alone makes it one of the worst SMGs in the game, and when they fixed some of the bugs, they did not fix the barrel. Yeah, I'm starting to think that Timmy getting their interns to work on these weapons is not actually a joke. And yes, I get it, they want to make money out of the mythics and they can't sell a faulty product. Fair enough, that is business 101. But at the same time, I don't think that is a very good excuse to make the non-mythics this bad. And Timmy, I'm just saying that it is just food for thought. If you made every season good, maybe you wouldn't have to make the mythics so obscenely busted. But this is not a critique video, that is for another day. Anyway, I'm done hijacking this video. Locke, you can wrap up now.
When this is called out, the economic defense emerges. They need to make money. But there's a difference between monetizing a game and monetizing the removal of artificial friction. This is creating the poison to sell the cure by making the free experience intentionally clunky or visually noisy. For example, the Type 63 in its original Black Ops game can equip optics akin to a red dot. This is not possible in CODM. In this case, the mythic or legendary skins become a necessary tool for competitive relief. You aren't paying for a skin, you're paying to bypass a handicap. And let's be real, calling a multi-billion-dollar entity like Tencent a small developer that needs support is ridiculous. This is not a scrappy startup, this is Arasaka Tower. They aren't struggling to keep the lights on, they're optimizing how fast they can drain your euro dollars before the next patch drops. What's even worse, traditionally games with devs that have good intentions provide a means to earn items that grant a competitive edge. However, such a system simply does not exist in Call of Duty Mobile. You could argue, well, actually, secret caches. Unfortunately for you though, most weapons obtained through that means tend to be off-meta at best. You have no means of earning this golden ticket to pay-to-win meta haven as an F2P. We are living in a state of gameplay communism. The game gives everyone participation trophy via uncounterable operator skills, then sells you a $300 skin to make that trophy look like a masterpiece. Team Studio Group can truthfully say they do not sell damage anymore. They sell the removal of friction, they sell the removal of the attachment constraint, the removal of visual noise, and the removal of screen obstruction. Visibility is a statistic, consistency is a statistic, and in CODM, those statistics are for sale. The sixth attachment is not a myth. It's the cornerstone of a premium experience that has successfully normalized pay to win by calling it premium feel.